Hey, I'm Travis,
And I'm Adele.
and we're with The Noble Marriage.
We're here to inspire your marriage and impact marriages globally through some skills such as improved communication.
Yeah, and we're helping couples discover true love and intimacy as God intended.
So thanks for joining us today. Hey, and welcome back. We are in the middle of a series with Ted Cunningham, who is an amazing author, one of our favorite speakers. He's a pastor, he's a comedian, such a great guy.
He's funny.
Yes. And in this segment of the interview, he brings up accountability and boundaries in marriage. So let's listen in and see what he has to say.
Yeah. How do you protect your boundaries between you and Amy through these times where you're going so many places and maybe going alone and without the family? How do you protect your boundaries in your marriage?
That's so good. Yeah, we talk about this a lot. There's several things. I don't think this is just for a pastor or a speaker. This is for every couple. We share every password on devices. I love the cloud. There's nothing I will, see on a Netflix account. We all four are on the same Netflix account. We see what's being watched. My computer's open, my devices are open. It makes for great accountability in the home, and we're big believers in the transparency of that, talking through that. And I think one of the greatest ways for the boundaries to stay in effect is a thriving marriage, to enjoy life together to a point where other options look so unattractive and have no desire to step in. So, but that's a great question, and I love encouraging folks with it, that you get to a point, a spouse gets protective of their phones, their text messages and all that. Everything in our home is an open book.
Yeah.
Histories, and we just know it's I have a 16-year-old son and an 18-year-old daughter, same thing. Yep, you can have a social media account so long as I get to follow you. None of these secret spam accounts that teens are doing. We're open book family, and that freedom gives us lots of responsibility, but a lot of oversight or boundaries as well. So Song of Solomon 2:15, chase the foxes. Chase the foxes before the vineyard is destroyed. And so, or catch the foxes. Yeah, we deal with the foxes, and we're very clear and very open about that.
So that was great.
Yes.
He has some great advice on there, and we're going to talk about ways that you and I have worked through accountability in our marriage. But first, let's look at the Song of Solomon verse that he's referring to here, Song of Solomon 2:15. And this is from the Message. Then you must protect me from the foxes on the prowl, foxes who would like nothing better than to get into our flowering garden.
Yeah, probably had I just read that on my own, I don't think I would have really understood what foxes is referring to.
I read it a few times and had no idea.
Are you like, I don't know what that's referring to? Because that was me. But let's just talk about, what are the little foxes in a marriage?
They are those little bitty things that will come between your relationship. They're small, they're not noticeable, they kind of go under the radar, so to speak, in our marriages that will cause drift.
Potential threats to the relationship, and anything that is going to pull our hearts away from each other.
Yeah, it might look like clicking or responding on that message that you got from an old fling.
Yeah.
That you know that you should run away from.
Yeah, it's really harmless to be like, hey, how is life for you? And tell me about everything. And then it just, it brings up old feelings so quick. And so, he talks about accountability in there. And when we were looking at accountability in our own marriage, I never would have considered those little things, those little foxes, to be a big issue. I saw them
Yeah.
as they're just small little things. But you and I we didn't ever have a conversation around boundaries and, where are those lines? What kind of accountability do we want to have together? Because when there is no accountability and no boundaries, there is no line, right? So you end up crossing the line and you don't even know it.
Yeah, and it could be just the smallest of things that you do it. King Solomon said, guard your heart. And what he's talking about there is these little bitty things that we're talking about. Let's say it is the old fling from long ago and you click on it. There may be something that it will affect your heart in a way that if it has any way of removing the feelings of love that you have for your spouse, those are the little bitty foxes that we're talking about. And I love what Ted said in there about making it to where your spouse is so attractive that all other options are unattractive.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I see that is, if I am concentrating on you and loving you and making a choice to love you and really engaging in that every day, it makes it to where other options are absolutely unattractive to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a few other things that foxes could be is that image on Instagram that pops up that you shouldn't be looking at, or a video, like racy TV shows, or little things like that are taking your eyes off your spouse and on something or someone else is absolutely crossing the line in a marriage, because our marriage is the most important thing.
It is
And
a sacred covenant.
Why wouldn't we want to really protect that? And we're coming from a relationship that has been through unfaithfulness and crossing the line and crossing the boundaries. And so we have recognized, wow, that was really missing in our relationship for years and years and years. And now that we have those boundaries and they're safeguards, they're protecting us from the world. It gives us so much peace and trust within the relationship to know that he's not crossing lines and neither am I.
Yeah,
So,
there's a couple of different word picture analogies that really make sense. Like one of them is you're on a steep mountain, and on the side of the mountain that's the steepest, a lot of times, thankfully, they will put guardrails up. The reason they do that is so that cars that go over the line are stopped before they enter destruction. And that boundary or that guardrail is the boundary that will keep that car. It may get hurt, right? Like it bumps up against it and there may be some pain and some scratches.
right.
Some things that are manageable. But going over that, the destruction side is the protection is so good. I love that analogy. The next one is a bowling alley. If you go bowling and you have some kids that go with you, they put those bumpers up on the side. And those are great to keep the ball from entering into the gutter on either side, to get it down to the end, which is the ultimate goal, right? And so in our marriage, if we keep the bumpers up on either side, we get through our life with the ultimate goal at the end without getting off either side. Those boundaries are what keeps us in line in our marriage.
Yes. Boundaries are really important when you're dating also, so that you know where that line is, and what Jesus has called you to do as a couple. And then let's also talk about having conversation with your spouse and how to safely do that.
Yeah, this will be real quick. We go into way more depth into this in our 9-week online course, which you can get on thenoblemarriage.com. But the first way is safe. You have to create a safe environment where we let our walls down to be able to share. And what would you even share in that? When you share and label things that are issues that you may have within your life, like if you label it and get it out in the open, it loses value. And so if we're referring to the little foxes, it may look like bringing up in a conversation, hey, I'm having a hard time with this, or maybe I'm having a struggle with this, and let's just have a conversation. Or what it may look like is what you've done several times is, hey, is now a good time to talk to you about a concern I have?
Yeah, and just check in with you.
Yeah.
It's so important, like he said, that you have a safe place that both of you can share from your hearts around this area. But we do have regular check-ins where I just say, hey, how's it going with accountability? We have an outside of the marriage accountability partner. And the reason for that is we know in our marriage what the temptations are. And so it's so important that you have that conversation with your own spouse to find out what are those temptations that you seem to feel weak in, and how can we support each other so that, we're successful.
I want to throw this in there. You want to be careful not to necessarily be your spouse's accountability partner.
Absolutely.
What happens in that environment is it becomes a parent-child relationship.
Yes.
And that's not something you want. And that's what, Adelle, you're speaking so good about, having an accountability outside of that, where you're able to have great, authentic conversations about things that you may be struggling with, or things that may be a temptation in your life. And having that accountability to be where they come alongside you and they love you and they love Jesus and they want what's best for you. And they don't mind having a conversation with you saying, hey, how's it going this month? How are you doing? What are you looking at? What are you thinking about? What's going on in your life? Having that is such a great thing. Go ahead.
I also think guy for guy and woman
Yes.
for woman, when we're talking about accountability, it's really important that you don't cross that and have a female-male accountability relationship.
Great point. Yeah, great point. Okay. So one of the things we do is I have a software program on all devices, and that blocks things that should not be looked at, but it takes regular screenshots, routine screenshots, I think is the word I'm looking for. And it will send things to my accountability partners that may be questionable. So it wouldn't necessarily send them random things, but things that are questionable. So that's one.
Well, what's important about that is safeguarding the heart so that temptation cannot sneak its way in. Because in a world that we live in today, there are a million temptations out there.
Yes.
And it's just really important that we try our best to eliminate areas that temptation can get in.
That's
because
good.
It's coming at all angles. The enemy wants nothing more than to split your marriage up. And so temptation is that sneaky way in to just get you to look just for a second. That's harmless. But again, those are the foxes that we talked about earlier.
And temptation is not sin. It's not wrong to be tempted. Jesus was tempted. That's not the sin. The sin is, what do we do with that? We have thoughts. We have 40 to 65,000 thoughts a day that are constantly going in our mind. So the temptation isn't sin. It's what do we do with it? Oh, back to our accountability. So we have the software programs. Then I have an accountability group. There's just a group of men that I go to church with, that we can just have authentic conversations in a routine basis. It's great to have that with you. And I said before, that accountability person needs to be someone who loves you, loves Jesus, and does not mind having an open conversation with you, an authentic conversation with you.
And asking the hard questions.
Yes, that's important. Otherwise, there's just no use in it. Open password. So that is anything that I have that would have a password on it, she has access to it.
Same.
Yeah.
Another safeguard that we have in place is we don't ride with the opposite sex alone. We are not in a room alone. And we're even careful about private text messages that
Or
the other one
conversations.
is not
Yep.
aware of. And so that's just a few other things. And this is specifically talking about accountability in your marriage. And then if we're talking about boundaries, there's even more boundaries that we have in place in our marriage that help really support us, that don't necessarily have anything to do with accountability.
And both are great to have.
We do go into that, like Travis said, in our online course. So if you're interested in really building those safeguards around your marriage and growing closer in intimacy and true connection, you're going to definitely want to check out our 9-week online course. It is transformational, especially in this area.
Yeah, so do what you like, have great conversations with your spouse about, hey, do you feel like we are being fully accountable to each other? Do you feel like you can pick up my phone anytime you want to? Good conversations like that is a great starting point to be able to navigate accountability and boundaries.
Yes. It just popped up for me. Like, I remember in our relationship, there were a lot of red flags that I saw. Like, you were protective over your phone. So was I. And I would try to have conversation, and it was not a safe place for us to share. And so if that is relating to you, I want to just remind you that, it's okay that you can't have that conversation by yourself. Get somebody to help you out with that. Get a coach, get a counselor, a mentor, another marriage that is for your marriage, and have that conversation together. And that also creates a safe, place.
It does. And if we can help you with that, you can go to thenoblemarriage.com. There is a section for a 15-minute free consultation. It won't cost you anything, and we can just talk about this.
Yeah. So if you found value in this conversation today, please hit the like button. This helps us get this news and this content out to way more marriages. So the more that you find value and let us know, either in the comments or hitting the like button, the more people are going to see this. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll look forward to the next conversation.
Bye.
Bye.
I didn't get that. Say again.
Sarah.
I'm here.
Yeah, she's here.
Yeah, you are. Okay, I'm done. Hey, you're not finished yet.
We're here to make a difference and inspire your marriage and other marriages as well. And if you found value in these videos, leave us a comment and let us know what that was so we can make other videos similar to that.
We would love for you to join our community of awesome, like-minded people.
They are awesome.
Go ahead and hit subscribe, and you'll get daily motivational videos that impact your life and inspire you to be your best self. This also helps us get our message out to marriages all over the world. So thank you so much for subscribing and joining our community.